Now, our final thought, inspired by the book The True Believer by Eric Hoffer. I am DK.
And I am Serbia.
And I am AX. But before we get there, allow me to welcome a very special guest. Welcome, DK, to the panel. Welcome.
Thank you so much.
Pleasure to have you. All right, so let's begin. This week we have been dedicating books to each of the NASA principles. On Tuesday to Raila Odinga, we dedicated the book Relentless, From Good to Great to Unstoppable by Tim S. Grover. In it, we reminded Raila that the same pressure that bursts the pipe can also turn a lump of coal into a diamond. On Wednesday to Kalonzo, we dedicated the book Seeking Wisdom from Darwin to Munger by Peter Bevlin. Through it, we complimented Kalonzo, calling him a chameleon. We also reminded him that now is not the time to adapt and blend. Now is the time to stand out and shed his chameleon-like skin.
Yes.
Now, on Thursday, we dedicated to Musalia Mudavadi The Science of Likeability by Patrick King. With it, we advise Mudavadi that to be liked, he needs to ask someone to help him out. If you ask someone to help you out in some way and they do, they will be more likely to do you another favor. Keeping with the running theme of the week, today we would like to dedicate a book to the romancer of churches himself, William Samoei Ruto. The book, as DK said, is called The True Believer by Eric Hoffer. Now, with our choice today, we would like to remind the Duke of Hustlings that he is not destined to be king, that in fact his movement lacks true believers, and as a result, he will be lucky if he maintains his dukedom. Let us explain. Hoffer wrote True Believers on the heels of World War II and the beginning of the Cold War, a time where people sought to understand how the likes of Hitler, Mussolini, Stalin could come to power and how the movements they created could survive. Accordingly, Hoffer, through his book, explains why and how mass movements arise to challenge the status quo. Hoffer goes beyond authoritarianism in the 20th century to look at religious movements, reformations, and nationalist movements throughout history. And through his analysis, he defines true believers as fanatics, people who are willing to hope in, willing to act in service of, and ultimately die for the movement. I don't know about you guys, but these people are not hustlers. Hustlers, by any definition, will not die for their hustle, let alone a cause. To explain how an individual turns into a fanatic, Hoffer offers 3 insights. First, mass movements are born from the frustration of the people. Second, mass movements are interchangeable. And third, the success of a mass movement does not lie in its goals or aims, but in its ability to build a united, cohesive unit of people. Simply put, Hoffer argues that mass movements are inherently fleeting because they are not made of true believers, merely frustrated human beings. And this is the lesson that the man from Sugoi has not heeded. Starting with the first lesson, mass movements are driven by the exploitation of frustration. As Hoffer said, and I quote, to the frustrated, a mass movement offers substitutes either for the whole self or for the elements which make life bearable, and which they cannot evoke out of their individual resources. Put simply, a mass movement offers an individual who is frustrated a way out, a way to get beyond the frustration and figure out how they can solve it without necessarily blaming themselves. And after a year of uncertainty and hardship, Kenyans are frustrated with the status quo, no doubt about it. And this is a fact that Ruto is exploiting with his hustler nation. Because people are drawn to Ruto out of frustration, they will be drawn from him from the very same reason. The crowds he elicits have nothing to do with him, any more than quantum physics has to do with peanut butter. So, what's my point here? All this is to say, William Ruto may not be as secure as he wants us to believe.
Thank you, AX. That was quite profound.
Thank you.
So, as I was reading this book, I really gained insight on the worldview of the fanatics. This made me think that perhaps what Ruto has is a movement. And as such, I drew parallels through the lens of Hoffer's deep analysis of 2 key points. Point number 1, as long as people are ready to join one mass movement, they are ready to join all mass
That's
movements.
the truth.
First, we must understand that mass movements strive to indoctrinate. For a doctrine to work, it doesn't have to make sense, but rather shield the individual from reality. It must be contrary to nature and to common sense. That is why it didn't matter that Ruto couldn't define bottom-up economics. His minions were always ready to parrot his ideas. This is because the individual is stripped of his identity. The hustler cease to be Kamau or Kibet and become fully assimilated into the movement. They will prefer equality and fraternity more than freedom and a healthy individuality. I mean, they might as well be members of a ganja club or even Prophet Ovor's disciples. Same WhatsApp group. Point number 2, as the author tells us in the book. The game of history is usually played by the best and the worst over the heads of the majority in the middle. What does this mean? Sociopaths and psychopaths steer the ship. To a large extent, being a charlatan is required for effective leadership in these movements. Actually, mass movements can rise without a belief in God, but never without a belief in evil. Usually, people don't often unite in favor of something as much as they unite when they are against it. As a famous French philosopher said, if the Jew did not exist, the anti-Semite would invent him. That is why Ruto has made dynasties the object of his aggression. He has chosen not to see the government's development record and instead discredits the president's legacy projects. He has even transmitted this defiance disorder to his followers who now await the macroeconomics revolution. They forget an important lesson from history, that all revolutionaries eventually become the old guard. Utopias are dystopias. And Eric Hoffer shares in this view by concluding that every great cause begins as a movement, becomes a business, and eventually degenerates into a racket. So to the hustlers, brace yourselves, for it does not get any better. And if it does, it's temporary.
Wise words, incredibly wise.
Wow. You know, when we dedicate a book to William Ruto, we must be very cautious not to overexpand his intellectual abilities. This is because the deputy president himself has told us that he's a slow learner. So when you talk about utopias and dystopias, you might as well be throwing him off. But anyway, this week, some nondescript Gema woman rep declared that it would take just a mere phone call from President Uhuru Kenyatta for her to abandon Ruto and return to the home base, that is Mount Kenya. And she had no apologies, if you look at her face, after having enjoyed weekly pocket money from Ruto and chopperites and also sausages from Karen. It looks like she has missed her mashakura and the boiled carrots and warus in the Kikuyu stews.
Indeed.
But we ask, is it too early for these inter-party crossovers to start happening? DP Ruto must be beginning to believe our lost caution that a Kikuyu can only be rented and not bought.
Absolutely.
But we suggest that this movement reflects a deeper restlessness than even the DP's pockets can hope to cure. In this book, The True Believer, Eric Hoffer explains that mass movements, such as we observe in politics, have a crucial element of interchangeability. In the Bible, it is interchangeability that allowed Saul to become Paul. It is interchangeability that left it a toss-up whether a restless youth before Hitler's Germany would join the Nazis or the communists. It is the same interchangeability that made Maina Jenga transit from leading Mungeke to becoming a church bishop. According to Hoffer, interchangeability is explained by the fact that all movements, like AX said, draw their supporters from the same type of humanity and they appeal to the same types of mind. It therefore follows that 1, all mass movements are in competition. A gain in one is a loss in all the others. 2, all mass movements are interchangeable. This means that One movement can change itself into another. So, in the case of Germany, the communists, like we've said here, and Nazis appeal to the same type of restless humanity and the same types of mind. Hoffer takes this further to state that even after one has become an ardent convert, their receptivity or openness to other movements does not cease. In other words, the most zealous converts like Dennis Matumbo are not to shift their allegiances. Hitler understood this well and saw German communists as potential Nazi converts. And Saul in the New Testament abandoned his passion for butchering followers of Christ to become the most fanatic follower of Christ ever.
Amen.
Bwana asifiwe.
Amen. Amen. Amen.
This pattern of interchangeability cannot be good news for William Ruto. These Kikuyus are the converts with whom he spent 4 years bastardizing and butchering the legacy of Uhuru Kenyatta, just like Saul was doing to the legacy of Jesus Christ. Now, the Kikuyus he sent to Damascus are being blinded one by one. We know that soon they will transit from being Sauls to Pauls. This is because the bottom-up gibberish and the hustler narrative will leave them restless and thirsty for other ethnic alliances like Oka and others. So to William Ruto, therefore, the lesson from this book, The True Believer, is that an alliance with Kikuyu hustlers is an alliance with the interchangeables of all interchangeables. Hashtag Aki Kikuyus will betray William Ruto. It's only a matter of time. Bwana asifiwe.
Amen.
Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, and we are also on your TV screens. You can find us on Pang, Free to Air, Go TV, and Star Times. Enjoy your time.
Good night.
Good night.